So, finally returning from a 2 week break, we finally have our new episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. But before we begin, please be sure to subscribe to the channel so I can keep bringing you more anime content, and like it if you really do like the content of this channel. So, the return of Jujutsu Kaisen after a, nice break in there for Gege, and content-wise, this one was a bit interesting, given that the last time we had checked in with this series, we were building up to what should be, hopefully, an awesome fight with, Sukuna, Yuji, Higuruma, and Hikari, and, you know, the personal chef. I'm not bothering with the name on that. Because, some characters are just fundamentally not that important, and I think Sukuna's personal chef is not a character I should necessarily have to remember the name of right now. But what was surprising is we got a kickoff this week of none of that. None of those characters were in this chapter. Instead, we started with Kenjaku essentially being allowed free reign to go and hunt down all of the other sorcerers that were reincarnated or awakened. He's doing both, trying to end the Culling Games himself. I think this is a little weird because they kind of heavily implied before that most of the Culling Games contenders had already been wiped out, that they had pretty much whittled themselves down to like near non-existent numbers, and I honestly always kind of assumed there was a failsafe in there to get rid of them, but even if there wasn't, I just assumed that, when he set the conditions that before the final battle, it was heavily implied that it would end when either Sukuna or, he would die. So I'm kind of left to wonder why there's now this kind of thing of him going out and hunting other sorcerers, if that was, like, not an option. More importantly, the fact that this is an option for him at all brings into sharp contrast the fact that our hero sitting around watching Gojo lose a fight was not a great choice. Has essentially allowed him to consolidate everything else he needs to really hinge this all on the final battle. So, we're not winning great points for our main leads there. But anyway, we see more that Kenjaku's unhinged. I don't really think that's surprising at this point, given he's talking to inanimate objects for a good portion of this series. Then we get kind of the only challenge to him that we've had so far, and it's both interesting and, I'm not going to lie, probably going to be profoundly disappointing, because we have Takaba is going to be his first opponent. The fact he's his first opponent is an interesting choice, number one. The fact Takaba is also a very powerful sorcerer who is on the level of Satoru Gojo, as confirmed by this series, is another. But unfortunately, a few things are said here and implied here that really make me think this is not going to go well. So let's go ahead and get into that. So the first thing I have to point out is that there are some retcons in this chapter. Most notably, really one specific one. There is a retcon to Suguru Gedo's power that Kenjaku says now he can see through his summoned cursed spirits, because he's using them, somehow, to observe the Jujutsu High students and keep an eye on them in case Maki or Yui leave. I think that's really weird, because it's clearly stated in Hidden Inventory that Gedo cannot see through his cursed spirits. It's one of the few weaknesses of his power. And I think it's really weird that this pops up here. It's never even been hinted at before. And I also can't highlight enough how relevant it is that this change happened, because even adult Gedo, who had access to his maximum technique, could not see through his spirit's senses, because he has to ask Gojo at the end of Zero if his family got away. If he could see through his cursed spirits, he would not need to do that. So I think that it's really kind of, let's say, an interesting change. I could also say it's a frustrating one, because this directly alters the power to give a bad guy an advantage, which seems to be a common reoccurring theme now in JJK, and it's getting a little old. And on the flip side of that, though, we now have the idea that Takaba, whether through, Yui's technique, or basically through his own power, because that power has not been explained very well, has now gained the ability to teleport and is now going to confront Kenjaku. There's a big problem with this, in that Takaba is not significant enough a character to be in this battle. To be frankly honest, if this battle is going to happen, unless Gege is just really dead set on doing anything conventionally, it would have to be more than likely Maki and Yuta versus, Geto, because those are the two basically, you know, Yuta has already bested Suguru Geto, and Maki is a even better version of Toji. And with that, Toji really screwed up Geto originally in Hidden Inventory. So I really think those two are the best shot that they have of beating him. All of that combined, I would strongly say that this battle should result in a victory for Takaba. It just should, especially since, for some reason, uh, Kenjaku never bothered to track any of his awakened sorcerers or find out what their abilities are. So I'm weirdly left to ponder the idea of exactly how Gege is going to make it that Kenjaku gets out of this. Because I don't think Takaba is going to win, even though by rights he should, because he's been stated to be on par with Satoru Gojo. But I think at this point we're distinctly aware that Gege cares very little for the systems that he carefully set up earlier in the series. So, will this battle be cool? I really hope so. Do I think it's going to be? I have severe doubts. But what did you guys think of this chapter? Not a lot actually happened in it. It was just the prelim for their fight. And while it is nice to be seeing other stuff, I just kind of want to know what your vibe is. Do you think this is going to be cool? Do you think it's even going to last more than a chapter? Let me know in the comments below.